decided to write about how capitalism in the United States is a major problem. And our argument claim is that the capitalist society that these like large companies thrive off of is responsible for a large portion of our societal problems, and they're continuously not held accountable, and the problems just keep worsening.
I'm Reid, and my topic was capitalism in the construction industry. Started off with a quote, just thought it was very impactful. Just 100 companies have been the source for more than 70% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. That's just put in perspective that these large companies that are pulling in huge amounts of profits are producing the most greenhouse gases. And then more specifically to the construction industry, it's like cement is an integral part of the construction industry. Every structure requires it. It's part of the foundation, and cement production in the world is responsible for 5% of those total greenhouse gas emissions. So that's a pretty significant amount for one, like kind of sector of the construction industry. And from those, that's the environmental concern, and then the human health concerns. These greenhouse gas emissions, they increase death rate, increase sicknesses. And at the end of the day, the construction industry is pretty for profit. There are ways that these companies can alternately like supplement, and these just have higher costs, and that kind of ties back into the capitalism is the issue, and they're not willing to spend more money to be environmentally friendly.
For my topic, I talked about capitalism in the food industry, and my main motivation for doing it on this is that I did a lot of research on like the meat industry and how these large meat farms, especially in like the Midwest, they have so much cattle that it's creating a ton of environmental and health issues, especially for the areas that are very close in proximity to them. So one of the main ones is that cows produce a ton of methane, which is one of like the most like it creates a lot of pollution. It's also very flammable. So like there's a lot of like in the northern United States, if there's a lot of snow, it can melt the snow very fast, which like is releasing even more methane that's been trapped. The number of cows that are like required to feed the population that we currently have takes up a ton of land and irrigation use. So you can see why this would cause a lot of problems for like the surrounding areas and towns. And cows being together, like any species that close in proximity, makes them all prone to disease, and it rapidly spreads among the population. And then since we eat these cows, a lot of these, like E. coli is a major example, a lot of these diseases can be transferred to us, which obviously puts a lot of stress on our health industry. So basically these companies care more about profit, creating the most product possible, than they care about the climate and human health. And it forces them to add preservatives and GMOs to many of their crops, and like basically they just care more about themselves than they do about people.
I'm Brianna, and I did capitalism in the healthcare system. And basically what I said are vaccines are a very controversial topic, and capitalism is like one of the main reasons why people don't trust vaccines, and the fact that they're being produced from these big companies. And we rely so much on the healthcare system. And if people believe that like the healthcare system focuses more on making money than they do on actually helping society, then this leads people to not get the vaccines. And then some people don't trust it because they're thinking that they put something foreign in their body. Yeah.
I'm Taylor, and I'm talking about the dairy and meat industry. So industrial farms have adopted strategies to maximize profit and minimize animal welfare. Some of these strategies have caused limited grazing opportunities in cattle, which is a natural behavior for them that needs to be expressed. When animals are unable to express these natural behaviors, they start to exhibit stereotypies, which are basically just repetitive motions that indicate poor well-being in an animal. So some of these stereotypies seen on cattle farms are pacing, repetitive tongue rolling, and chewing on the bars of their pen. Cattle on industrial farms are often living in overcrowded conditions and have limited room to explore. So because of this overcrowding, housing areas are often unsanitary, which poses a greater risk of infection and spread of disease between cattle. Smaller farms are being forced to change their strategies because competition is too high. So because family farms are losing profit due to the competition with industrial farms, they are being forced to adopt these same strategies as the industrial farms, thus compromising the welfare of their cattle. So I believe that in order to combat this, it is important to buy meat and dairy products from local farmers. If you're unable to do this, then you should try to stop buying meat from Tyson, Cargill, JBS USA, and National Beef, which are the 4 largest cattle slaughter companies in the US. The profit that they gain forces lower prices for ranchers and feedlots, who are then forced to adopt unsafe production strategies, which basically just goes to show that the profit in this capitalist society is affecting the production strategies, which is then affecting the welfare. And another company to avoid is Nestle, which generates 24.3 billion US dollars annually in revenues from dairy.
And we have some sources for all of our points.